Hi, I'm Michelle Turner, Director at HumanTouch, and thanks for joining us today. We're here with our partner Rubrik to introduce our service offerings in data backup and disaster recovery, and we're hoping to provide you with insight into tools that can help bolster your cybersecurity strategy. So in the news, we're continually learning about cyber attacks on major institutions, and in 2019 alone, cybercrime cost businesses $2 trillion. And 2020 is an unprecedented year for disasters and challenges of all kinds. With staff having to work from home, your organization is open up to major security challenges, and it's only a matter of time before someone will try to hack into your data or website. So you may be wondering what options are available to your business to ensure your data and facilities are not compromised. Well, HumanTouch provides a people-first approach to finding the right business solutions for our various clients, from federal agencies to nonprofit organizations. And we are an agnostic provider, meaning that we partner with many stellar business services so we can find what fits your business needs, and we do not promote a one-size-fits-all solution. We partner with you, leveraging Rubriks products to understand your architecture, your data needs, and to help craft a recovery strategy. And we bring our experienced strategists to plan for any loss, while at the same time protecting your business systems, implementing and improving your cloud ecosystem and security. At HumanTouch, we provide a wide array of agnostic cloud-based solutions that are driven by technology champions to include cloud architecture, application migration, cloud transformation, security and operations, and PaaS and SaaS solutions. So now I'm going to turn our presentation over to Kyle Hawthorne of Rubrik to walk us through an understanding of disaster recovery and ransomware. And Kyle will share some real-life case studies that have made the news recently, and you'll get to understand a lot more about what Rubrik brings to the table towards protecting your data and your reputation. Kyle?
Hey, I'm Kyle Hawthorne, and thank you guys for joining today. We're going to go through our presentation for Rubrik for cyber resiliency. This is going to be a particular talk in how we implement an immutable file system and help our customers fight ransomware today. So we'll go ahead and get started by playing a video of one of our customers that has a testimonial on how we protected their backups. Helps us set the stage for this talk.
On Friday evening, the city of Durham's data networks experienced a serious cyber malware attack which affected our entire network.
Ransomware attacks are testing the resolve of cities across America.
New Orleans city government has been hit.
4 U.S. cities have been attacked by ransomware.
Recent cyber attack has hit U.S. health.
The city can be assured that our backups are very good because they're immutable, which means that ransomware cannot consume our backups. We're using a product called Rubrik.
So great testimonial that we just watched. That was from one of our customers out of the city of Durham. They were able to restore from a ransomware attack because we have an immutable data store. No data can actually be overwritten once we've sent it to the actual Rubrik appliance. And that's what we'll get into today during our talk. But also to set the stage, let's go through some of the headlines that we were able to pull up with a quick Google search. Earlier, I was able to pull down 15 headlines that talked about ransomware and how it's affecting the IT industry. Such sources as the New York Times, ZDNet, as all the way down to local papers down in Florida, such as the Sun Sentinel. Ransomware is really happening on a day-to-day basis. If you guys, check blog posts, news headlines, log into LinkedIn, it's plastered everywhere with stories on how ransomware is affecting IT shops and businesses alike across the board. It's pretty much become the #1 attack vector. If it's via phishing, via a malicious link, someone's clicked on, ransomware seems to really be the #1 flavor of an attack for those bad actors out in the field today. One of the key things, right there in the headline, never has there been a more compelling event to change backup. If you take a look back at the 1990s on into the 2000s, nothing was ever purpose-built to help fight ransomware. The architectures have pretty much stayed the same until Rubrik showed up. From day one, this solution was built with security in mind, and one of the key factors was we knew ransomware was a problem within the market, and how we designed our data store is to help prevent any of our backups from ever being encapsulated. And then we'll get into some feature set and how we can quickly remediate if ransomware does happen to outbreak within your organization. So Rubrik from day one built our data store to be immutable. You cannot change the backups once they've been committed, so no ransomware can actually encapsulate your backup data. This is a cool slide here. This is pretty much your industry standard security posture. Prevention is essential, but attacks still happen. If you see there within the preventative measures on how we've drawn this out, we have a physical layer that's going to start with your fences, your security locks, your biometric readers, and how you actually secure your data center or your facilities to where your data sits. Second, network protection. You're looking at something out within the firewall. You've built a perimeter around that data. And as you creep in closer to the data, we'll hit an endpoint, such things as DLP you've purchased or any type of virus protection on those endpoints. And moving closer to the data, application level firewalls, internal systems such as IDSs or IPSs, tripwire, taking a look at any of the applications that are actually being modified. And then finally down to the data level, where you might have some tools watching that with some data governance functions and telling you who's actually interacting with your data. But one of the key things is ransomware still happening and outbreaking in these environments. As you can see there in that graphic, what happens if one single ransomware strand was able to make it through all those security defenses? If it was from an outsider or if it was from a rogue employee that probably was disgruntled, an internal bad actor, it can still happen. If you take a look there, 75% of companies infected with ransomware were running up-to-date endpoint protection. They'd gone out and actually updated, the DLP products of the world, those virus protection applications on those endpoints, and ransomware still happened. So it's not really a question of if it's going to happen, more of a question of when it's going to happen, because no matter what your security posture looks like, it's still being proven today that ransomware can slip through the cracks, and really having an immutable backup to restore from is really going to be your only fail-safe measure. So the biggest question we always ask our customers is, you have a great security posture, you've gone out and spent your money effectively, you've built this unique play, but how fast can you recover if that one new strand of ransomware makes it past all those defenses? And the statistic of 75% of endpoints being updated with the latest updates, and it still got through, really speaks for itself. This is a great graphic, Ransomware Pandemic. The FBI basically announced the sum of ransomware paid will be greater than $1 billion. The average ransomware has increased right around $86,000 to $90,000, with many of folks paying hundreds to thousands to even into the millions. There was a cool story about a Florida city that was hit last June. They attempted to recover, but decided they couldn't wait any longer. The restores were taking too long, so they paid the $600,000 ransom, and they ended up paying another $900,000 in total damages, having to fix a lot of their internal processes and procedures, buying extra security measures to really, prevent that from happening again. But why would anybody pay a ransom when you could have a solid backup? Doesn't anybody have backups that are immutable from ransomware? So we saw that as a very key point in protecting users' data, and why aren't more companies, adhering to that standard and really protecting their customers' investments? Why are organizations paying? The biggest thing, lengthy downtime, average recovery time, Forrester estimated right around 7.3 days. And that's typically after the organization has, gone back and forth 2 to 3 days of waiting and discussing how they actually want to attack, removing their actual ransomware and looking into what they have and what they can do. It's often companies have no backups or the compromised backups that end up paying the actual ransom. So what happens if your backup solution does actually get hit with ransomware? You don't have that fail-safe to restore from. So some customers just, unable to recover, don't have a set of immutable backups, will go through and just give up and are forced to actually pay that ransom. And then lastly, lack of visibility into the scope of damage. They really don't know what was touched. They can't determine the blast radius of that ransomware outbreak. So how do they know which files were, actually compromised? So sometimes they'll go out and actually just pay the ransom, not knowing that maybe, it was only a handful of files they just want it gone. And the sure way to do that is just by paying that ransom and getting your data back and unencrypted. But, fail-safe there is obviously going to be immutable backups again. So when it comes to Rubrik, how do I do it? How do we implement our solution to empower them to help fight ransomware? And this is a very cool, unique play. So from the appliance perspective and how we deploy our backup solution, quick start, plug and play, auto discovery. Under an hour, rack stack, power, your network set up, you should be able to get your first enterprise backup running. Once you have that ready to go, we can also implement an auto discovery feature set to where any new systems that spin up in VMware, Hyper-V, any new databases with SQL or Oracle will automatically be protected so that in case you do have a ransomware outbreak, you're not left scrambling, to make sure that you backed up those systems. Cool feature too, also with instant RTOs, are live mount of VMs, SQL or Oracle databases. We can spin up those systems directly on our appliance and get them back into production. So if you do suffer a ransomware attack, Rubrik has that immutable data store, you can go back to those backups and resume production from your last backup for that production system. So spin it up directly on our appliance, and then you can vMotion it over. Secure immutable file system into an encryption. That's the key point here, and we'll get into this a little bit later on how Rubrik helps our users protect their backup data. But having that immutable file system means there's no ability to write to the backups that we've actually stored. We only have an append command. There is no overwrite, and we do not allow our backups to change once they've been committed to the appliance. Rest assured, encryption AES 256. At rest, in flight, no matter what, that data is encrypted. Now, what takes it a little bit further upon the immutable data store is our alerting, our machine learning-based anomaly detection, the last line of defense. Over time, we know what your data profile looks like, and if we see those anomalies in that data, we'll go ahead and warn our end user. So if it's not just ransomware, if it's an internal bad actor that, let's say, didn't get their bonus, was disgruntled because they didn't get a promotion, and went through and deleted data, we'll also see that as a data anomaly. So ransomware and data anomalies, mass deletions of maliciously destroying data, we can also help our customers restore from. Granular visibility, automated assessment of the actual attack surface. I was talking about the blast radius, being able to see exactly what was touched. We can recover only the impacted data. And that is a great feature just because we're not blind restoring data. We're not just, covering everything that might not need to be restored. We can tell with Rubrik exactly which files were impacted so that the restore time is more efficient to get you back into production. We're not just restoring everything on that file server blindly. We're specifically just restoring the encrypted data. So time to remediation is very valuable with our solution. We can get you back up and running because, again, we're only restoring what was actually affected. Now, this is a cool slide. This is pretty much the money slide of the entire presentation, safeguarding your backups with immutability. You can see there on the left-hand side, without immutability, think back to that 1990s, pre-2000 backup environment. Stuff really hasn't changed. We have a multi-tiered architecture. We have a backup proxy, backup server, probably have some agents out there, search server, tape archive, traditional legacy backup. Someone introduces ransomware, production servers get hit, backup servers get hit. You have no way to actually restore. Now that third party, that bad actor has you locked in, and you're pretty much faced with either, let them, leave the data encrypted, or do I pay that ransomware? Well, with Rubrik, if that happens, your data will be encapsulated, but not Rubrik's data. So we have a valid backup of your data from that SAN, from those production servers, and the ransomware cannot actually impact our solution, because remember, that's an immutable data store. We cannot actually change once those backups have been committed to the appliance. Then you'll just be able to restore, quickly get your systems back up and running, put the production servers back in place, and get your file data back. So recovery is a heavy lift. That's a very true statement, because analyzing where your backups have been touched or your production system have been touched is not the easiest. So identifying the anomaly, where did it actually happen? What system was it launched on? What user? Can you diagnose the impact? Can you manually identify the scope of the attack? Do you have an audit log that shows you each file that was actually encrypted? Do you know every directory that was touched? And then finally, the recovery of the files. If your backups are encrypted, you're going to have some trouble restoring from them. And two, maybe you do have those backups ready because they weren't actually attacked by ransomware. Well, how do you know each individual file to restore? So you're most likely doing a blind recovery of those files. And then days to weeks to actually get that going. Prime example, if you're having to pull from tape or pull back down from the cloud, those actual egress charges being a challenge and making that restore time a lot longer. Our approach, how does Rubrik affect this and address all those three challenges? One, the instant recovery, the lower RTOs, which we just talked about. If ransomware does get out in the environment, you can quickly spin up a VM, an Oracle database, or a SQL database and get it back into production while you're actually doing the restores. So put the system back into place, get it up and running, and then take a look at the restore of the individual files, because we're restoring from a copy out of our backup. Immutability really drives it home. Production system on into Rubrik. Once it's in our data store, again, you'll hear me hammer it time and time again, that immutable data store doesn't allow the data to change once we've committed it to our appliance. And then the impact visibility. It's really hard to know exactly which files, because do you have a system that is giving you an audit log, giving you an up-to-date date look at how that content has changed? With Rubrik, we can see the impact visibility and only restore what our end users need. So time to remediation is a lot faster with our solution than traditional architectures out in the marketplace today. Our approach, recovery accelerated, very simple. We want to keep it user-friendly, not challenging at all. Identify the anomalous behavior. Machine learning, AI is built in, and we have an API-first platform that plugs into other automation frameworks. You can also feed your security team information, because maybe those security tools didn't catch the ransomware outbreak, but Rubrik did the analysis and was able to forward it off to that SIM device and inform a larger audience. Granular impact assessment, knowing exactly which files were changed, clear view, allowing you to quickly filter, and something that we'll show you here in the demo on how you can quickly restore. So that audit log capability of the individual files that have changed. This is a big challenge because not a lot of solutions offer this. And then finally, the immutability and the instant recovery, which we've been going over. Again, that data store is immutable. You cannot change the data, and it really makes it simple because you can stand things back up. And the key features and how this works is the two at the end here on the slide, the granular impact assessment and the immutability plus the instant recoveries. One, we can see the files that were restored and we can quickly restore them. I've worked at companies as a SE previous to this, and seen my customers actually bit with ransomware in POCs of other solutions I was selling. My end contact disappears for a few days, come back, I've lost time, I've lost a deal because they were busy fighting ransomware. And typically it's a disparate system. They have an audit log from a SIM device or some type of security product, and then they have a disparate backup system, and they're left having to sit with their backup admin and pick and choose each individual file versus having an all-together one system that shares a common workflow of granular impact assessment and the ability to restore what was actually impacted. So Rubrik bridges the gap, puts that audit log and the restore features together, so time to remediation is very fast, very easy. Other things within the actual solution we'll get into is reporting and tracking the file changes. We can see when the events occurred, the level of anomalies, how many creations, how many deletions are being seen. Filter the time range of the actual location, and view graphically what spikes, and along the way over time, where was the greatest impact of that ransomware or mass deletion within your organization. You can also report, so if you need to send this off to the C-levels, the top figures in your organization, you need to give it to auditors, the actual insurance company, just to let them know there was a ransomware outbreak. We have those reporting features built into the solution. Integration examples, how we leverage our API set, ServiceNow incident response. I know there's a lot of ServiceNow out in the market. We partner very well with them because of our API first architecture. We can quickly integrate our solution into one common interface. So if you're a shop out there that's leveraging ServiceNow, it's not challenging for us to take our solution and pipe it into theirs so that nothing changes for your customer or your end user experience. You can quickly log into ServiceNow and do the remediation leveraging Rubrik, but all from a common ServiceNow single pane of glass. And then, other things such as, pushing data to SIM devices such as Splunk or any of the big SIM providers out there in the world today. And then finally, our last slide before we get into the demo, just the summary, instant recovery from ransomware, because we can restore data within a few clicks. The most high level feature of our solution, the immutable backups for defense. Again, remember the solution cannot change data once we've committed it to the actual data store. The immutable data store prevents the backup data from changing. So some of the competitors out there in the backup industry that suffer from the susceptibility of being encapsulated with ransomware is something that Rubrik's not going to run into. And then the visibility into the impact. We have the blast radius because we have the audit log. We know exactly what changed. And so let me switch over and we'll go ahead and get into the demo. So I'm going to turn to the side and actually jump on one of my bigger monitors so we can see it from here. So let me just get it prepped and we'll go ahead and dive in. So let me share out and we'll go ahead and log into Rubrik, Polaris. Once we log in, you're going to see a dashboard. This is our dashboard where our clusters are actually plugged in. This is a solution that allows us to do reporting on the actual cluster, gives us the overall health and the events, what's going on with our actual backups. When an end user logs in, if they're specifically looking to leverage the tool, there'll be a placard, a nice little event here that shows you that anomalies were detected. And we can see it's powered by Radar, our ransomware solution. So we'll click in. Once you click in, it takes a closer look at the actual events. Here we're looking at the past 24 hours for an anomaly detection. And we can see we have two alerts here. Detected anomalous file system activity, high confidence, high levels of encryption. We can see right around 2,300 files were added and 2,300 files removed. Typically that represents ransomware. The file system sees it as a delete and then a re-addition of that actual file. So if you click here, you can actually take a look at what the time frame is and how to actually investigate that snapshot. You can see from May 5th to May 11th, we had right around 2,300 suspicious files. You can see that we're covering that gap of data because maybe it's a slow-moving ransomware attack. They're not as noisy. They've changed how they're encapsulating their files, and they don't want to do it all within 5 minutes or one day. They want to spread it out and slowly introduce ransomware into your environment so maybe you won't notice. Well, Rubrik has identified that and can see the time frame of what's going on. From here, we just scroll down. You can see the event timeline. Detected significant indication of encrypted files, lots of anomalous file system activity. Probably looks like ransomware. Let's go ahead and take a closer look and dive down into the individual files that we've identified as being compromised. So we'll click Investigate Snapshot, and you'll go through a workflow here. You can see at the top, 1, 2, 3. It's as simple as moving through And we've already we've taken a look at the events. Now we're investigating the files, the second part of the workflow. We can see exactly that it's impacted on the C volume. So we'll click through and we leave our customers those clues, sort of that cookie crumb trail to lead them to where we found this anomalous detection. We can see that the core majority of it is located within the file shares, typically where your enterprise keeps their data. You can see high-level targets such as HR, legal, IT department, finance. So let's just focus in on, the engineering department that has a huge high chunk of changes and deletions. We go in, we take a look, and within the first few line items, we can see that the first PowerPoint was switched over, or the first PPT file was switched over to an encrypted file. And if you make your way down the list, you can see more encryption. So the file was deleted and it's re-added as an encrypted file. And pretty much we've identified we've had a ransomware outbreak within our engineering department. Left-hand side, there's some filters for the actual file changes, so we can quickly see what was encrypted and what was deleted. So we'll just modify it by deletion and go through and actually pick those files to restore. So you can go ahead and clean up the encrypted files just by mass deletion, select the files that you need to restore, go through exactly what you want, hit next, and you finish the workflow at the third option. You can download the files, pull them directly to you within an interface. Maybe if the system was completely, erased itself, security took it over for analysis, you just need the data back to host it somewhere else. You can overwrite the original and put it back into production, or you can recover to a separate folder on that file server or another file server. And we would just hit recover, and away it would go. And that's as simple as it gets to quickly restore from ransomware. So key points to take away here is the fact that we have both systems brought together. There's no disparity. We have the audit log, and then we have the capability of immutable data store to make sure that those backups are never encrypted, and we can quickly move through and restore exactly what our customers need. But I thank you guys today for joining this solution, or this session, to take a look at our ransomware solution and how we combat ransomware outbreaks. And looking forward to you guys taking a look at the solution in the future. I thank you guys today for joining. I didn't know if anyone in the audience had any questions out there on ransomware or any of the immutability cases. I'll let you guys take it away.
Thanks, Kyle. So we have received some questions I'd like to run by you. Okay. First question, how do I get started with HumanTouch and Rubrik?
Best way to get started with looking at Rubrik is to work with your HumanTouch counterpart. If you reach out to whoever is your account manager on the HumanTouch side, they'll get in contact with our sales side, and we can set up a demo conversation. Really do whatever you guys want to do, a deep dive into our technology. So just reach out to your counterpart at HumanTouch.
That's correct. Thanks. What is the length of time for an installation?
Length of time, I would say about an hour. You'll see all the marketing materials out there that say, hey, 20 to 30 minutes. That's in a perfect world. About an hour. You get your rack, stack, power, cooling all set up and ready to go. Networks in order. About an hour before we have to get our first workload backed up. So pretty quick.
Okay. Another one. I'm a small business without a formal IT department. Can I still leverage these types of services?
Yes. There are MSP offerings out there today. There are some options to where you can leverage Rubrik through a virtual appliance model, to where you're only having a small instance of Rubrik on-prem, and then that takes your data offsite to a secondary location that can do the analysis. So if there's some small shops out there that, hey, I don't have an IT shop, what do I do? There are some MSP offerings today.
Okay. What is involved for ongoing maintenance, and how do I stay current?
Maintenance, just like any other company. I think you're purchasing 3 years up front, or if you're on our Go subscription, you're continuously paying for it. I believe 20% for the most part. So industry standard maintenance scheduled, consistently rolling out updates, security fixes, just like any other company.
Okay. If I get hacked, what happens?
If you were to get hacked, from a perspective of ransomware, essentially you'd be safe with Immutability. The restore tool is quick to analyze exactly what files had changed. So you just quickly go through and actually take a look at the radar tool and pick the files to restore. The hack one is a key, thing we always talk about. But feel safe that the immutable file system, the key feature that we just talked about, is going to protect those backups. So if everything else gets encapsulated, broken down, and destroyed, rest assured Rubrik's still going to be there to restore that data. So really being hacked, terrible issue. But if you have a ransomware outbreak like that, Rubrik's not going to have a problem handling.
Okay. And last question, why can't law enforcement intervene right away? And why would I ever have to pay the ransom?
Law enforcement just aren't equipped today to handle ransomware. You can launch a police report, probably go to the FBI, they'll come in and do their analysis, but it's not instantaneous. They're not on site for you right away. So there's a lot of downtime before they can get there. So you really need to put that preventative measure, that fail-safe measure in place, so you're not just left waiting saying, hey, when's the FBI going to show up and do their investigation to help you? So it's at a too fast of a moving pace today.
Okay, well, thanks for answering those questions. And thank you so much for taking us through Rubrik, and thank you to our audience for joining us today, and a special thanks to Rebecca Churchill, who has directed this webinar. And I just want to say that now more than ever is a great time to protect your systems to ensure your data won't be compromised. And we can help you together with Rubrik to implement a strategy and solution that protects your organization and reputation. So please follow us on social media to catch our next installment of cybersecurity information and news, or join our mailing list to obtain blogs and service updates at humantouchllc.com. Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.